This is a Blairing Out with Eric Blair show. Pleased to have former except current U.D.O. bassist Peter Baltes on the show. Peter, what was your youth like growing up in Solingen, West Germany?
It was a small town, and there was literally back then there was no music scene. There were even fanzines. There was nothing. And I started playing bass because we had 3 guitar players and a little band, and we only had 1 amp. So one of the guys had to become a bass player. You know, we pulled sticks and had the shortest one. You're the bass player. So okay. Got a Rickenbacker bass and really was into a progressive. Yes, Emerson, Lake and Palmer. You know, I was all over the place. You know, being really into this stuff. Had my own band. There was this band in town called Accept. I heard about them, but I was fearful because they were loud and they had Marshall amps, and I didn't know what that was. And they looked for a bass player, and I auditioned. I went there with my Rickenbacker. I remember to the day. I walked in, and it was an octagon building, and the walls were covered with PA, Marshalls, and a drum set. It was covered. And they made me plug in, and I listened a little bit. I'm very good with picking up music. I hear it, and I can play it right away. It's a little gift. So I started playing, but I did my style, and I played 1,000 notes a minute. And everything stopped, and I remember U.D.O. turning around and said, play one note. I said, one note. So I started playing one note. He said, hard. And hard. Why do I play one note? And it took me a while to realize with that music, the drummer, the bass drum, and the snare, and you are the constant. That is the foundation of everything. And I'm like, okay, and then I got it. We had a little band contest. We didn't win, but we got offered a record contract, and then it went from there. Life changed. I was very lucky. I mean, if U.D.O. wouldn't have been there, who the hell knows where I would be. It wouldn't be here, that's for sure.
What did you think of U.D.O.'s voice the first time you heard it?
It was scary. You know, back then U.D.O. was fierce. I mean, he's still fierce, but he was fierce, and he would sing, and it sounded English. None of us spoke English, so it sounded English, but we didn't know. It's just, while he was singing, he made it up. That was a funny thing. When we went to record the first album, the day before we went into the studio, the producer called, said, don't forget your lyrics. And we're like, okay, we didn't have any. So we sat all night with the dictionary and wrote the lyrics for the first album. Never thought about it because, you know, but we wanted to be an international band because we saw that the Scorpions would play in England and America, and we didn't want to just be a European band. So that's the main reason we started singing in English right away. A lot of the other German bands are just, you know, sing in German.
How did you navigate your success and accept and not succumb to the pitfalls of sex, drugs, and ego?
Well, at the time, you know, the manager, Gabi Hauke, back then, you know, she made a call in the beginning. She said, I'm not dealing with anybody who's doing drugs. I'm not doing it. If that's the case, I'm out. When I was 16, I had a good friend. We were in a building on the 4th floor having a party, and he was smoking something out of a big water bottle. That's all I remember. Bubbling, you know, I know today, I know what that is. But anyway, he opened the window and he thought he could fly, and he died. That cured me from that day on. You know, I wasn't interested in any of that. I think I took a puff once for some weed and just coughed for a day. Not interested. So that being said, our whole career was based on drinking beer, and that was okay. You know, we were Germans. That was what you do. But, you know, touring with Kiss, Motley Crue, Ozzy, you name it, Dio, there were people all around us, you know. When you get to see it, then you realize, oh my God, thank God we're not doing this. You know, we have 5-6 beers, 5 hamburgers, and we're down. That worked well.
When you think about the fact that U.D.O.'s 72 and he's still going strong, I mean, him and Mick Jagger could probably run a race together.
Probably. They could. And he stopped smoking, I forget, 10 years ago or 12 years ago. He would smoke on stage. There was a cigarette on an ashtray behind the stage. It didn't make any difference. U.D.O. never warmed up. He does it now. He does one big scream and that's it. But he was never sick. He never missed a show, ever. And I remember we played in Belfast, Ireland. It's a custom there that they spit. I remember because Def Leppard came before the show, and there was a bomb alarm, and we leave the sound check, they come back in, and long story short, we played, and at the edge of the stage, U.D.O. was standing there, and then somebody spit, and it was hanging on my bass. It was a long one. So I moved back on the drum riser. U.D.O. just stood at the edge of the stage, and he didn't give a shit. It was just that's who I am. And he had an immense set of balls in what he did. On stage, he was a totally different animal. You know, he was really calm off stage, but on stage, the voice just cut through everything. And you remember back then it was loud. Everything was amps, loud PA. You go to a club, you come home, your ears are ringing, and you could still hear him. You know, where a lot of other singers, they get drowned out. That's just like a motor saw. I don't know. He cut through.
How did you get the call to play bass on the 1981 Dokken album, Breaking the Chains, and what do you remember about those sessions?
Very simple. We were in the same studio, and Michael Wagner was producing Dokken, the first album, and Don, they were in there, and they had, I think, Juan Cruiser. Yeah, he ended up in Rat. Yeah, he did the bass track. I can say that today. He won't be mad at me, but for some reason, they weren't happy with the bass tracks. And Michael was our first album sound engineer when we were still literally a little cupboard box and a reverb unit. Turned up the reverb, and that's it. But that's how we started. So he said, is there any way if I give you these songs, and it was like at 4 o'clock, can you learn them and play them tonight? I said, yeah, but he's still here. It's kind of awful. Yeah, but he's leaving in the morning. He's going to get up at 6 and go to the airport. I said, okay. So So they were downstairs. I was upstairs in the studio learning the songs. As soon as he was in bed, they called me down. Let's go. And I played it in one night, and that's it. That's the story of it.
Who else was in the studio with you?
Michael and George Lynch was there. Mick Brown. Everybody was there because they were checking out how I recorded, and they loved it. And then one song, next song, keep going. And I just kept going. Okay, what do I know? I didn't really know much back then, but I had a certain style. What I still have, it's the right hand. People always ask, how do you get your tone? And I said, I don't know. I have a 59P bass. I was born in 58. The bass was built in 59, which is at home right now. I take it on the road anymore. But it was just an extension of me, and the attitude made the sound. I went right in the board. There was no amp. It was just right in and go. I think that's maybe the only little secret I have when they ask me, how do you get your sound? Love your sound. I don't know. I hit hard. That's it.
When I was a kid, I wanted to get the Geezer Butler sound, and I would ask the people at Guitar Center, how does he get that sound? They said, because he's Geezer Butler. It's his fingers, the way he plays, and that's the way your personality comes through your instrument.
Yeah, well, I was totally influenced by Roger Glover and Smoke on the Water, the intro when he comes in, and I played that a million times, and that was attitude back then, and he drove that song, him and Ian Pace.
Yeah, so do 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 do. Yeah,
that's how I developed, and then I went from there right to AC/DC and discovered Cliff Williams. There, for the first time, I realized his only job is to be with Malcolm and the drummer, and these three just have to support Angus. That's it. And go up every 2 minutes and go sing Thunder or something else. I really dug into that and made that my own, my own version of it. And if you listen to the Accept records, Balls to Walls, same thing. By that time, I was there.
And your bass really cuts through. It's not lost in the mix.
Yeah, I don't like a very low bass. I like it above the bass drum. I don't like it too close to the guitars, but I like it very close to the guitars. So you can hear it. It's like another instrument. A lot of bands have it very low and it sits somewhere and you can't really hear what he's playing. Cliff, you can hear it because he has roundwood strings. He has a certain attack, comes from the string already, which I don't. Metallica, I always wished I could hear the bass more, How would that sound at the first records if they would have been...
I know.
And it's not. So, but it's their sound, their taste, and it's fine. People love it.
And then you played bass on Don Dokken's 1990 solo album, Up From the Ashes. Is it true that Don Dokken had a rule that all the band members must live in his house?
No, that's a rumor.
Okay.
Yeah, I had my own place because I moved to Redondo with my wife and my 1-year-old. Mickey lived somewhere. They all lived somewhere. So maybe they might have lived on his couch for a while when they moved over, but that was it. Man, what an album that was. I mean, it was really something else. It was Geffen Records. We had everything going. I remember it was Dial MTV. You remember that? And we had all the family members dialing it, and then the video got really high, and we did one world tour, and then it just ran its course for some reason. That happens a lot, and they call it super bands or whatever, because people come from original bands. John, he wrote the Final Countdown, so that's where he belongs.
Yeah.
Mickey, you see, Motorhead he was made for that. I went back to Accept, and he went back to Dokken. It's a good time, great album. I wish we could have done some more. On the other hand, no regrets. Life went right on from there.
So you went on tour with that?
Yes, we played shows with Poison, did Japan, did some Europe too. I remember Accept. We had one big European tour. We had Dokken open up for us. I remember that. That was when Chernobyl happened, and we were supposed to go to Poland, and Dokken was an American band. They said, we're the hell out of here. So they left the tour, and we went to Poland, and we played, and I think it was 800 miles from where Chernobyl happened. When we flew back to Germany, we came out of the airplane, and they had the Geiger counter thing, and all of us went click, 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 click. So we were all like, we have a little Chernobyl in us, but I remember that was Dokken back then. Yeah, I started with Dokken, first album, then did that, and then Back from the Ashes, and it was a good time. He was a good friend.
So Don Dokken, how would you describe his personality?
Well, he's a true rock star in the sense of being from Los Angeles, and there's something to it. If you're an American rock star, you live that, and some of them live it 24 hours a day, and Don was that, but he was also a great songwriter. Again, a great team, him and George. It's in every band. There's always two. Then when that doesn't work anymore, that era is over, and then everybody fights for himself in a way. It's a shame, but when they were together, they were gold.
Under what circumstances did you play with Terry Bozzio?
Terry Bozzio came to the studio when we did Up From the Ashes, and it was an interesting thing because it was an easy song. It was a 4/4. It was not much to it. But Terry, I think it was 2 days, they set up the drums, and the snare doctor came. I'd never seen anything like it. I was just sitting there, what the hell are they doing? And the drum set had 1,000,000 cymbals, all little ding-ding, little bells. It was like, you just need hired, whatever. And he came and he was all rock starred out with army boots, I remember. And I was in there with the producer, and Don said, you check it, make sure it works. Sorry, Terry, I know you're a great guy, probably a great player, but it wasn't right at the time. And I knew it after like 10 seconds maybe. The producer said, no, we have to do longer than 10 seconds. So, we played for an hour and something, and then went home. And I said, no, man, I can't do. So I called my friend Ken Mary. He was a drummer for Alice Cooper. He lived in Phoenix, and he came in and he played it in a heartbeat and left out. It was weird, because Mickey was there. He was great. I have no idea why for this one particular song Terry Bozzio had to come. I was like, So that was my experience with Terry Bozzio.
And then did you play with Simon Wright?
Yes, I did 2 solo records with John Norm. And second one was Simon. And again, it felt like AC/DC. I felt like I was Cliff because we clicked. I forgot the producer's name at the time, but he came to me after like 3 takes with Simon. He said, how you guys know each other? I said, met this morning. What? And then it was a time we were listening just to the bass and drum tracks, make sure everything is okay. And I said, make it real loud because I like to feel it. And the door opens. I think it was Axel and somebody else. And the hell is this? Everybody in the studio. It was Sunset
Sound?
Yeah. They heard it. They came down. The doors opened. And we were just listening to bass and drum tracks. It was something else. The guy is incredible. And I have no fucking idea why he's not playing right now.
I think he's playing with the U.D.O. Disciples.
He should be with Angus. If that's Angus' last call, he should have been there. That's my take.
So how did you get the call to record bass with former Motley Crue guitarist Mick Mars, which included Korn drummer Ray Luzier, vocalist John Corabi?
John wasn't in that session. Michael had a studio in Nashville, and he called me often, can you help me out with this guy doing this and this? And then he called me and said, I'm doing a very high-end project, and I want you to come and take a listen. And I said, who is it? And he said, it's Mick Mars, but, they tried every bass player in town, and nobody can cut it. I need somebody really, versatile and hard-hitting. I came in, I listened to whatever the tracks were at the time. There wasn't much there. And I said, this is not the album I was thinking, because Mick's talking about a solo album for so many years. I thought, so Ray and I kind of had to make something out of it. We did that we recorded at Mick's house. I think we did 10 tracks, and then I wasn't sure. I said, this is not good enough, but I didn't care. And then later on, the winger keyboard player, Paul Taylor, went in, assisted him, and, doing the record and playing. They erased all my stuff, which I don't care. But that's how that ended up. And I wasn't sure if I really wanted to be involved, to be quite honest, because I didn't know what it's going to become. It was an open-ended thing, and sometimes if you don't know what it is, so everything worked out in my favor.
What about the personalities? Did you enjoy hanging out with Mick and Ray?
Ray's great. Big Accept fan. We did lots of festivals together with the Korn guys. Mick, he's been suffering for so many years. He was suffering with Motley Crue. Mick doesn't do hotel rooms because of what he's struggling with, though. His life is on the tour bus, and when they have these massive tours, I can totally understand it. After a while, it was hard for him to get up on the stage, to be there, and it is what it is. I mean, he was a really sweet guy, and I really felt for him because I always thought, man, all the money and all the, whatever Mick has, he would give it in a heartbeat to just stand straight for 1 minute and be normal. And that gave me a perspective to my life. I'm thinking, I should be grateful. I am grateful. But, sometimes you have an encounter like that, and it gives you a little perspective to your own life. I say, man, I'm so sorry, and helped him in any way I could, but in the end, it went another way.
When are we going to hear this Peter Baltes solo album
record
you've been talking about for so long?
I've been working on it, and I was really going to go for it because I had certain players in mind to play it. Don Airy, then he was on tour, so I couldn't get him. And then U.D.O. called me, can you help me out? And since he called me, I've been on the road or recording with him. I did the My Way album, I played the last album. I didn't have any time, and it's killing me. I'm going home now for 3 weeks. I got to spend time with my wife. I can't just, so, and then we're going to South America, then we're going back to Europe. Then I have December, then I have something to do with the Dokken album. We just recorded that. Then the end of February, the European tour starts. So there's no continuous 4 or 6 weeks. I could dive in. I don't know. That's how it's going to be. That's how it's going to live. Song by song, piece by piece, I have to put it together. It's really like old progressive. Emerson, Lake and Palmer meets Purple, meets Rush, meets Motorhead. It's all in there in my own little world that I am. And it's very bass driven. And I'm struggling so much, because I don't know if I should sing it myself. And then I could never do it live because I'm not a front man. I play bass. I didn't want to stand there, sing at the same time. That wouldn't be me. So I had to be a singer there anyway. So I figured I'm going to sing it, get it all finished, and then I'm going to find a singer or have somebody sing it. And then I just alternate the ones that I really like where I'm on. I keep them, and everything else somebody else.
I listened to your vocals on some of the old Accept records. Yeah. You're a fantastic vocalist, man.
Well, you can never tell by yourself. But I did some background vocals on the Scorpions album because I come really high. I do like it. I mean, and next year when we do 40 Years Balls to the Wall, we're going to play the entire album. I'm going to pick one of the old ballads that we never played, and we're going to play that live. And it's just going to be a nice special treat for the fans.
So you're really inspired by Chris Squire, Greg Lake.
I would say that was my first period. You remember when I started out? And once I was and Accept, I couldn't listen to that anymore because, it had to be AC/DC, it had to be Deep Purple, and then Priest came, and then my life was over, I didn't listen to anything else. I don't listen to music in general. It hinders my creativity in a way. You listen to other stuff all the time, nothing comes out. So I do the opposite. My wife listens to stuff all the time at home. You would never see me put a record on. I'm not that guy. Always when I'm home and when I'm recording, and I'm best at 7 in the morning. It was so weird. When we were younger, everything happened at night. We were half as drunk, a case of beer, and that's when Balls and Fast as Shark. Now I get up at 6, 7 o'clock, 7 till 12, I work, and it's great. After that, I'm done. There's no more creativity. I go in the pool or go to the beach, it changed, with age. It's an interesting thing.
Apparently you were involved with the Christian Life Center. Is that true?
Yes.
That was in Philadelphia. Are you a Christian?
I am a Christian, yes. I'm a born-again Christian, and there was a time I was going to have a band with Spitz from Anthrax, but that fell through, and I just basically played in the church worship band, which was funny because I was always too loud, you played too much, and I played guitar. It was just the funniest thing ever. I remember when I went back to go with Accept, the pastor took me aside, and everybody else took me aside and said, "You're going to hell." He told me all the time, and I said, no, I'm not going to hell. I'm going to be a light. And I realized then how in the church environment, it's totally different. You can have your own belief, but how the church tries to mold you and make you and push you and put you in little, I didn't like that at all. So I just said, you know what, you guys do your thing. I'm going anyway, but I'll be a light, and that's it.
Did you come from a Christian family?
No, I'm German.
How did it happen?
My wife took my kids to church. I didn't want to go, and then one day I went, and I sat all the way in the back next to the exit so I can get out real quick. But then some guys from the church came to the house one day, brought a cake, and we talked and talked and talked and talked. And I was producing a Philadelphia punk band, and they perished in a fire, 3 of them. They had a rehearsal room in a storage unit thing, and they had one of the kerosene heaters, and it blew up. And I was supposed to be there that day, but I was somewhere else. I was late. I came with my backpack, and the whole thing was on flame. So that was like a month before, and I was struggling with that. When they talked to me, it all makes sense, and I was in that state that I needed something, and that's how that came about.
How do you stay humble in the face of all your success?
I don't know myself. Success, it depends how you define it. Like my success is not really defined so much in what I do, more in what I've done. Records, music, like songs like Baltes, they will live on forever, long after I'm gone. Metal Hard, Fast as a Shark. I think that's the success, but in terms of money or accolades, couldn't care less, because none of that you can take with you. So that just stays here. And the only thing I really count as success is the longevity, that I'm standing here 66 years old, feeling great. My bass sounds great, my hand functions, I don't have any arthritis, and I can still rock out and have my own son on the road. That's what I call success. Anything else, gravy.
Lita Ford just turned 66. Do you know Lita?
No, I don't. I met her a couple of times now, but she looks great.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you meet a lot of people at festivals, and some people say, oh, this is my friend, this is my friend. Nobody's your friend. They're acquaintances. You meet them at the festival, and sometimes you say something just to talk to Alice Cooper. Yeah. And everybody takes these selfies now, so it's just weird. I've seen her, we had lunch together, dinner together at the festival. We talked a little bit, but everybody stays to himself, really. That's just the way it is. But I have a funny story. We lived in Nashville, and my son had a purple Volvo 240DL, and we got him a license plate. It said Deep. And then Deep Purple was recording an album in Nashville, and my wife got to meet them, and she told Roger that I'm his biggest fan, biggest envy, and he knew of Accept. And we had a party coming up at my house, and she secretly invited them. And the door rings. I open the door, and there's Roger and Don Airy, bottle of wine, coming to the party, and it was so cool. So we went downstairs, popped them right in front of the Volvo, and took pictures. And these are the little things I like. That's not about fame, but really, we just talk music. And I went down to the studio. We were all drunk. Don Airy had it on my keyboards. I put Pro Tools on, some drum track, played bass. Roger played some bass. I played some guitar. We were pissed drunk in my basement. And then I forgot to push record because we were too drunk. But it was fun. Moments like that I cherish. Anything else doesn't matter.
Do you have a favorite Yes album?
Not really, because I kind of like them all. They all have something. I mean, my favorite song is Roundabout. And you say, well, that's just because it had the best structure of a song. I played that album to death. And what hit me the most was the sound of the bass back then. He had a Rickenbacker. That's why I bought a Rickenbacker. That's another story. I worked 6 weeks in a sweatshop in Germany making metal pistons. Had enough money to get the bass, no money for a case. I brought it home, wrapped in newspaper. The neck was sticking out. Had it for 4 weeks, and then they broke into the rehearsal and stole it. So it was gone. I got the same bass. I didn't have an amp, but you try to copy, you try to become. And then I'm finally almost there, and it's like all out the window. You need a Fender bass. You got to stand like this, right hand down, and that's my story pretty much.
What kind of picks do you use?
They're custom picks, and I think they're so hard. I mean, you can't bend them. I forgot what it is, 1.8 mil or something really, really strong. Another story with that, I'm really good at flipping picks. I love doing that. I can pick somebody up on the balcony and get it right there because my picks have weight. And then you see the guitar players with their little dingy things, they can't even get the front row. And I'm all the way in the back going at it. At one time, I had our sound engineer was, all the way in the back. I hit him in the forehead and cut him. So from that moment on, I wasn't allowed to do that anymore because, of course, if I hit anybody in the face. But they have to be heavy, I tried sometimes to play with a quarter that's too slippery. I think that's the thing that makes my hand hit it so hard, and it distorts the pickups a little bit. I play EMGs, so they're powered up, and then they get too much input, and that's kind of what the sound is. It's a little, not distorted, it has a little too much gain to be like nice and clean. So it's always on the edge, and that's what that sound is, and you can only get that with a big pick, in my case.
Peter, it's been great having you on the Blairing Out with Eric Blair show. All right, this is the Blairing Out with Eric Blair show with Peter Baltes of U.D.O. signing off.
The Blairing Out Show.